Welcome back to our channel where we provide updates and undisclosed narratives on the royal family. We provide you with the exciting news. 5 ago King Charles gave up royal title just 517 days after inheritance. The title of Duke of Edinburgh was held by King Charles III for a total of 517 days, which was just a mandatory legal requirement, but had a great deal of symbolic significance. Following the conclusion of that period of time, the title was formally bestowed to his younger brother, Prince Edward. These constitutional and royal conventions have been in place for a very long time, and the events that led to this relatively brief period of guardianship of the dukedom followed those patterns. They began with the passing of Prince Philip in April of 2021 and came to an end with the first few months of Charles's own reign. The fact that the transfer was carried out in accordance with precedents does not imply that it was only a question of technicality. A number of those who have followed and discussed the voyage of the title believe that it indicates more significant changes within the royal family. Legislative formalities, the desires of families, the interests of institutions, and the need of striking a balance between public expectations for the monarchy in the 21st century are all examples of these changes. When Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, passed away on April 9, 2021, his hereditary honors were immediately and automatically transferred to his eldest son in accordance with the customary regulations for the succession of peerage. During that period, the individual who was serving as the Prince of Wales was granted the Dukedom of Edinburgh in its present form. This added the ducal style to a list of titles that overlapped with one another, such as the Prince of Wales, the Duke of Cornwall, and the Duke of Rothesay, for example. It is clear from the many titles that people who are in the line of succession to the throne often have a convoluted combination of historical, regional, and administrative titles. A number of these practices have their origins in territorial conventions that have been practiced for hundreds of years, while others are founded on the need for income and the aim of ceremonial activities. In light of the many accolades that Charles received at the same time, it is important to keep in mind that royal titles are not just personal styles, but also instruments of constitutional practice and means to recall the past. When Queen Elizabeth II passed away on September 8, 2022, Charles immediately became king. Prior to that, he held all of these titles throughout his reign. Another constitutional impact that has been in place for a long time was triggered by her passing, and that was the provision that an heir's substantive titles merge with the crown. When a person is elevated to the position of king or queen, this legal procedure is carried out automatically. This is not a sign of disapproval or punishment. Rather, it is founded on the fundamental principle that the sovereign is the source of honor. It is impossible for the monarch to maintain peerage dignities in the same manner as a subject, since the crown is the originating point from which such dignities ultimately link. It is no longer possible for a title to survive as an independent peerage in the hands of the new sovereign once it has merged with the crown. What this indicates is that the monarch who now holds the crown has the authority to establish new titles. Over the course of many centuries, constitutional law has made use of the technical procedure that is employed to restore titles to the crown. Peerages have been bestowed by kings and queens in the past as a means of recognizing service-strengthening alliances or highlighting significant family events. There have also been instances in which titles have been lost to the crown or eradicated entirely only to be re-awarded to subsequent generations. The law is straightforward. Peerages are honors that are bestowed by letters patent in accordance with the royal prerogative. As a result, the sovereign cannot be both the person who bestows them and the person who receives them in the conventional sense. When the new king ascends to the throne, all titles that the previous monarch had throughout their reign are included into the general dignity and authority of the crown. Because of this absorption, there is no break. Rather, there is a formality. Because of this, the legal position of the reigning monarch is altered, and they are granted the ability to use their prerogative once again by bestowing honors upon anyone they want, provided that they adhere to the principles of tradition, decorum, and sometimes political counsel. As a consequence of this, the Dukedom of Edinburgh, which Charles had held as a private person for a total of 517 days, was no longer considered a distinct peerage hierarchy. Instead, it was returned to the crown where it might be re-established. Buckingham Palace made the announcement that Prince Edward's younger brother, had been promoted to the position of Duke of Edinburgh on March 10, 2023, which was also Prince Edward's 59th birthday. The re-granting fulfilled a desire that many people had openly voiced Queen Elizabeth II, and Prince Philip had indicated their desire for Edward to one day hold the title in recognition of his long-term relationship to the Duke of Edinburgh's award. The re-granting fulfilled this desire. A great many of people believed that the re-granting was a means of maintaining the cohesiveness of the family unit, as well as a public tribute to the heritage of Prince Philip and Edward's decades of devoted but unnoticed service. Consider the historical and personal ties that are associated with the phrase in order to have a better understanding of the more profound meanings that are included within this sequence. The Dukedom of Edinburgh was established for the third time on the morning of November 20th, 1947, which was also the day that Prince Philip wed Elizabeth on the day that she was still known as Princess Elizabeth. The dukedom was not the only accolade that King George VI bestowed upon Philip. He also received additional honors such as the titles of Earl of Merioneth and Baron Greenwich. Philip was elevated to the position of senior and well-known member of the royal family as a result of these investitures, which also provided him with a public persona that became connected to his role as consort and his contribution to the public for more than 70 years. As one of the rare persons with a peerage who altered the ordinary meaning of their title to the extent that he did, Philip was particularly noteworthy. As a result of his reputation for devotion, loyalty, and a strong work ethic, the dukedom grew to be symbolically significant to the British public, as well as many other people in the Commonwealth. The Duke of Edinburgh's Award, a youth development initiative that Philip started in 1956, was an important part of his public persona. The award was created to encourage young people to be persistent, build skills, be resilient, and get involved in their communities. It has several parts including volunteering, physical activity skills development, and going on expeditions, and it gives participants age and ability-appropriate challenges. Over time, the initiative grew from being just a British program to a worldwide movement that has worked in more than 100 nations and territories and changed the lives of millions of young people. Its durability and global reach made it both a practical and symbolic centerpiece of Philip's legacy, an institutional representation of his belief that young people benefit from organized chances to challenge their boundaries, contribute to their communities, and build character. The title Duke of Edinburgh was more than just a ceremonial title. It was also a live link to an organization and a set of values that still define how the public sees royal charity work and civic participation. It's crucial to understand the award's extensive history and international reach, because they assist explain why the title's caretakers were significant for more than just national or family pride. Many local charities, schools, volunteer leaders, and national governments throughout the Commonwealth and across the globe are involved in the programs that fall under the award's umbrella. For fundraising, foreign alliances, recruiting young people, and making the program more well-known in public life, it may be quite helpful to have a conspicuous patron who is dedicated to and informed about the work. In that sense, who holds the dukedom is not just a matter of personal distinction. It can have a real impact on the charitable ecosystem connected to the title, the sense of continuity behind a globally recognized initiative, and the confidence of stakeholders who depend on royal patronage to keep networks of volunteers and beneficiaries going. Because Philip and the award were so close, many had long expected that Prince Edward, the youngest son, would one day take over as Duke of Edinburgh. Edward's personal and professional history made this anticipation likely. After working in theater and television production for a while, including a firm that produced plays and shows, Edward decided to work for the royal family as a public servant. He grew more and more responsible for his father's philanthropic work, and in 1988, he became a trustee of the Duke of Edinburgh's Award. He led the award's worldwide council for the next several decades and took on greater and more important leadership roles as his father cut down on his public engagement. Those quiet tasks done away from the public eye, but based on steady stewardship, gave Edward the institutional knowledge and hands-on experience that people thought he needed to be ready to take over the dukedom's duties, especially the care of the award and its related charities. In November 1999, when Edward married Sophie Rhys-Jones, there was a big indicator that this was the plan for succession. The pair will be known as the Earl and Countess of Wessex Buckingham Palace said. They also said that the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh wanted Edward to be given the Dukedom of Edinburgh in due course, once both of his parents died. That public statement was a clear indicator of internal succession planning. It made clear a desire and a strategy, while also admitting the legal limits that come with hereditary peerage. The dukedom could not be diverted at the time of Philip's death, since the letters patent did not say otherwise. In a dukedom regulated by conventional primogeniture, the oldest male heir inherits the title. The legal process that would eventually lead to Edward's ownership of the title had to happen in two steps. First, the title would automatically go to Philip's eldest son when Philip died. Second, when Charles became king, the title would become part of the crown and be available for recreation. The king could then use this process to give the title to Edward. This is how legal technicalities, family wishes, and public expectations came together to create the 5 or 17-day period during which Charles held his father's ducal style. During the 17 months that Charles was the duke, his mother was ending her amazing 70-year reign. During this time, the Prince of Wales took on more and more public and constitutional duties as the Queen's health became worse. He stood in for her at the state opening of Parliament in May 2022. This was a ceremonial event with a lot of constitutional meaning. It showed that he was taking over her legislative responsibilities and that people expected him to replace her one day. Charles's inheritance of his father's title during these events was a powerful symbol of continuity across generations. At that time, he was getting ready to completely take over the office that had defined his mother's public life in both symbolic and real ways. It connected him to Philip's legacy. Many people thought that having the dukedom during those months showed how many roles Charles had son, heir, father, and public figure in control of an institution that was created by the public life and personal influences of his parents. The Queen's death on September 8, 2022, brought about a quick and significant revision to the Constitution. When she died, Charles became king. The saying, "The Queen is dead, long live the King," sums up the idea of unbroken power that the British system is based on. When Charles became king, all of his previous titles, such as Prince of Wales, Duke of Cornwall, Duke of Rothesay, and the Dukedom of Edinburgh, became part of the crown. The press and public may see these changes as losses of personal styles and honors, but the truth is the opposite. The monarch is given a higher status that gives them more power over honors, and the old personal titles become part of the crown's dignity and ability to create new honors. Charles was going through a lot of emotional pain since he had just lost both of his parents in a short amount of time. The combination of very personal grief with the impersonal machinery of constitutional succession brought to light the complex emotional landscape that comes with putting into action laws that have been around for hundreds of years in the life of a contemporary public family and national institution. The automatic absorption of the dukedom into the crown produced a definite period of time during which Charles was the legal bearer of the title. This was an unintentional result of constitutional practice and lasted for 560 days, which observers subsequently called a short transitory custodianship. For the new king, the event was really just a matter of legal formality. However, it also brought up important considerations regarding how duties and honors would be shared among the royal family at the start of a new reign. One of these uncertainties was when and how Charles would meet the well-known anticipation that his brother Edward should get the dukedom. The problem raised broader questions about how a monarch balances the desires of their family, the needs of the institution, the feelings of the people, and the practical requirement to set up a viable monarchy that works for modern Britain and the Commonwealth as a whole. Charles became king at a time when the monarchy was facing structural and reputational problems that were different from those it had experienced throughout his mother's lengthy reign, if not in degree. For many years, Queen Elizabeth II's popularity as a person kept the institution stable and protected it from a lot of criticism. Her death took away that one-of-a-kind source of personal power and put the institution and its new leader under much more scrutiny. People in certain areas of the Commonwealth started to wonder again about the monarchy's place in a time of republicanism, the expense to the public of the institution, and how it should change to meet new societal expectations and standards of responsibility. Because of this, people grew more interested in Charles's personal record, which included his long career in public service, his involvement in policy issues and environmental activism, and his well-known focus on causes like architecture and organic farming. His well-known habit of sharing his thoughts on public affairs in private letters or via charity work was always a problem for a king who is supposed to be impartial according to the Constitution. Prince Andrew, Duke of York, was one of the most difficult problems for the new reign to deal with. Andrew's ties to Jeffrey Epstein and the civil action initiated by Virginia Giuffre hurt the royal family's prestige a lot. The legal issue was handled outside of court, and the prince has always rejected the claims. However, the incident led to his removal from public activities, the loss of military connections, and the termination of his status as a working royal. For King Charles, dealing with Andrew was a tricky balancing act. He had to keep the institution's moral authority and integrity, while also keeping in mind his own loyalties and family duties. Some people saw the decision to let Andrew stay at Royal Lodge, Windsor, even though he was not doing any official tasks, as an attempt to find that balance, while others saw it as proof that responsibility was not being applied consistently. No matter what Andrew meant to accomplish, his situation was still a reputational problem for the organization. This is a warning that the bad behavior or perceived wrongdoing of one family member may have a big impact on an institution that relies on everyone's honesty. The new king also had to deal with how people thought of his wife, Queen Camilla. Her rise from a highly controversial character in the 1990s to a well-respected and hard-working senior royal by the time of the late Queen's Platinum Jubilee in 2022 shows how people's opinions of royal figures may change over time. Queen Elizabeth II made it clear that Camilla should be called Queen Consort, which made it easier for her to take on her new job. Camilla's hard work on public tasks has also helped her gain popularity in many areas. But the recollection of earlier scandals, especially those involving Diana, Princess of Wales, still makes some people feel mixed feelings. That ambivalence makes people's reactions to the new king and queen more complicated, showing how personal histories may still affect how institutions are seen in unexpected ways. The split that seemed to last the longest and have the greatest visible impact on the family was between Prince Harry and his wife Meghan. After they decided in 2020 to step back from their senior royal duties and move to North America, they gave a lot of interviews, worked on media projects, and in 2023, Harry's memoir Spare came out. It was very open about family issues and sensitive institutional issues. Those revelations made things even more difficult for the family and made the institution's relationship with the media and the public much more problematic. The aftermath was bad for King Charles in two ways. He was sad, since he was no longer close to his son, and it was a public relations problem. The Sussexes' story was so important in the news that it sometimes overshadowed stories about coronations, policy announcements, and charity work. This made it harder for the monarchy to convey a unified public story. Charles came up with a vision of a slimmed-down monarchy and attempted to put it into action, despite the fact that he was constrained by both personal and institutional restrictions. The plan is to delegate the majority of official responsibilities, patronages, and employment that involve interaction with the public to a smaller number of senior working royals. These individuals are responsible for holding the majority of engagements and representing the crown in public life. The model is said to be a realistic solution to the demands of today, which include efficiency, fiscal responsibility, and a distinct purpose according to those who support it. It acknowledges the practical limits of maintaining a sizable cadre of working royals in an era that is inundated with media and in which every public activity and patronage is vulnerable to scrutiny. On the other hand, some people believe that a more compact and active family might result in a decrease in the popularity of the monarchy in various regions of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth. It is possible that the crown may lose the personal relationships and regional presence that have traditionally worked to keep it popular. This is because there will be fewer members available to do engagements around the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth. In reality, the debate over size is about more fundamental concerns, such as the manner in which the monarchy strikes a balance between the need to modernize and save money and the desire to maintain the status quo. Duties and objectives began to become more transparent as the royal group underwent evolution. During the ceremonial ceremony that took place on March 10, 2023, Charles made Prince Edward and his wife Sophie the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, respectively. This was a clear indication of his strategy that was made early on. The appointment was seen by the majority of people as a method to recognize their years of dependable public service and to establish a connection between the dukedom and those who exemplify the principles that are associated with Prince Philip. Both Edward and Sophie have a reputation for being reliable, discreet, and dedicated to the causes that they support. During the time that they are in charge of the award and other organizations linked with the dukedom, it is beneficial for them to possess all of these characteristics. The couple's public presence has become more fascinating as a result of Sophie's tireless efforts to advocate for the rights of people with disabilities and to combat sexual assault during times of conflict. For a considerable amount of time, Edward has been in charge of the award, which has established a direct connection between him and the program that is most closely associated with the dukedom. In Scotland, where the title is particularly significant to the city of Edinburgh and to the national ceremonial traditions, many people saw the regranting as a symbolic return home, a sign that the charitable organizations and ceremonial events would be run by individuals who were committed to keeping things going and who were serious about their work. During this same time period, Prince William and his wife Catherine gained a greater reputation as the leaders of the future generation. Due to the fact that William was crowned Prince of Wales and Catherine was given the title of Princess of Wales, it became quite evident that they would be the individuals who would steer the monarchy into the future. Significant advantages for the organization have been attributed to the excellent approval ratings they have received and the relatively well-managed public image they represent. Williams' programs, such as the Earthshot Prize, which stimulates innovative ideas to combat climate change and environmental harm, combine attempts to get individuals interested with efforts that are focused on the global level. As a result of Catherine's focus on early childhood development, maternal and mental health and family well-being, personal stories are connected to bigger social challenges, and a platform of advocacy that is softly persuasive has been built. Individuals typically describe their writing style as being media-savvy and purposefully contemporary. They are able to make their characters approachable while yet maintaining the respect that is associated with their position. Quite frequently, individuals assert that the younger couple have a leadership style that is distinct from that of Charles. They are less inclined to meddle in policy, they are more cautious about what they say in public, and they are highly focused on making the monarchy seem to be nice and current. The contrasts in style that exist between Charles and William are not merely a reflection of their personalities, they also have implications for politics and institutions. When it comes to issues such as the environment and conservation, Charles has been an advocate for a considerable amount of time. Additionally, in the past, he has been willing to give his vast ideas on several matters pertaining to public policy. These elements have contributed to the establishment of his reputation as a public figure who is both knowledgeable and passionate. This desire to get engaged causes challenges about the manner in which a sovereign might strike a balance between their personal ideas and the constitutional need to remain politically neutral. People generally get the impression that William is an intelligent person who is also aware of the media. These individuals believe that he is attempting to establish a kind of monarchy that is well liked by the general populace by means of well-planned public initiatives and a stringent attitude toward being seen. A reigning monarch and an heir apparent have a relationship that is inherently complex. The sovereign is expected to serve as a symbolic guardian of continuity while frequently maintaining personal restraint in public engagements. On the other hand, the heir apparent is expected to be prepared to assume a position that requires both respect for tradition and the ability to adapt to changing social circumstances. In the course of his reign, Charles encountered a number of significant practical challenges, one of the most crucial of which was figuring out how to cope with this tension, maintaining the stability of institutions while enabling new generations to enter the picture. In his early years as King, Charles had a dual personality, as seen by his decisions about personnel and public events. On the one hand, he has shown that he is interested in maintaining the significant functions that the monarchy plays and paying tribute to the individuals who have fought tirelessly to ensure that it continues to exist for a considerable amount of time. To provide only one example, he has reinstated Prince Edward to the position of Duke of Edinburgh. On the other hand, he has made measures to restructure the organization in a manner that is intended to conform to contemporary ideals of effectiveness, honesty, and clarity of duty. This endeavor to strike a balance is not unique to the British monarchy. Organizations that get their legitimacy from a mix of historical authority, public trust, and individual charisma are required to continually adapt their structures and its members to the changing conditions of society. Keeping the traditions and constitutional obligations of the monarchy alive while simultaneously maintaining the confidence of the people is a test that Charles must pass. This test is both administrative and symbolic in nature. More than merely an intriguing historical statistic, the 517 days that Charles served as Duke of Edinburgh are a significant historical event. They demonstrate how inherited legal frameworks and the staging of family goals interact with one another, how public institutions act as mediators for private desires, and how ceremonial titles continue to have real-world implications on charitable giving, civic engagement, and national identity. A possible interpretation of the final transfer of the dukedom to Prince Edward is that it is a means by which the family may achieve their desire to have the award and the philanthropic duties that come along with it entrusted to those who will be responsible for their upkeep. In addition to this, it is an early example of how Charles has transformed the authority of the crown into actual individuals and symbolic choices that would help define his reign. Although it is instructive, the transfer of a title is just one component of a slightly more extensive and complex activity. This attempt involves navigating a centuries-old institution amid a time of rapid social change, intense media scrutiny, and changeable public sympathies. The first few years of Charles's reign as king were characterized not only by public remarks and constitutional amendments, but also by personal tragedies and difficulties within his family. The protracted separation between Prince Harry and Meghan, as well as the unresolved concerns surrounding Prince Andrew, serve as reminders that the stability of the monarchy is greatly dependent in addition to the formal constitutional rules on the human conduct and relationships of its members. The moderate effectiveness of the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, as well as the popularity of the Prince and Princess of Wales, demonstrates that there are still significant reserves of competence, public goodwill, and flexibility within the family. According to this interpretation, the story of the Dukedom of Edinburgh does not demonstrate that Charles is experiencing a decline in his authority. On the contrary, it demonstrates how the responsibilities and possibilities shift when someone is in a position of sovereign authority. After being elevated to the position of king, he is no longer considered an individual title holder among many others. Instead, his role is to serve as the guardian of an institution, to be the steward of a diverse collection of traditions and obligations for the benefit of the public, and to ensure the continuity of an office that is not limited to a single generation. His success in that role will not be determined by the length of time he personally held a hereditary title. Rather, it will be determined by how well he was able to bring together a family that was going through public and private crises, calm a public whose expectations are changing, and put in place systems of service and representation that can support the monarchy for future reigns. There is evidence that the king is attempting to strike a balance between history and relevance, as seen by the brief period of time that the dukedom was held, the painstaking planning that went into handing it back, and the larger adjustments that have been made to royal activities. As King Charles III adjusts to his new position, the decisions he makes about honors, patronages, and the manner in which he distributes responsibilities among members of his family will reveal his leadership style. These decisions will reveal whether he is a conservatively custodialist, an aggressively reformer, or a hybrid of the two. It is abundantly obvious that the transmission of the dukedom from Philip to Charles and then to Edward is a clear illustration of how law, custom, family expectations, and public symbols all come together in the life of the current monarchy. The fact is that it is a brief but significant component of the larger narrative of an organization that must reinterpret long-standing customs in order to accommodate the requirements and objectives of each succeeding generation. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and share it.